Well, I couldn't be more excited this morning because I'm at Debra Fritts' home and studio here in Abiquiu, New Mexico. Hi, Debra.
Good morning.
And it's like truly walking, and she's going to tell us a little bit about the property.
Yeah.
She was saying
This was an alfalfa field when we moved here, and since we know nothing about farming or gardening, we decided that we were going to just turn it into a parking place and create our studio here. So this is an old chicken coop.
And did you actually build this structure right here?
We have a guy that's been helping us, and so and all the plants. Frank has become an avid gardener since we've been here, and so he's planting everything. So anyway, so the chicken coop was a cinder block building, in terrible shape. We were able to keep the roof, but there were no windows. There were just openings. So this was a project that we worked on for about a year until we moved out here full time.
And then how long have you actually been working in the chicken coop?
Probably 3 years now.
And you built all the walls?
Yes, we had those built. I'm teaching workshops out here. So the first workshop I taught, I didn't have the walls, and everybody got into our space at our house. So Frank said, we've got to do some separation here. So we put the stone walls up.
I'm going to take a break right here.
I'm into found objects, so that is an old drying rack that I found, and then somebody gave me that chicken when they found out that we were going to move to a chicken coop. We just kind of put that together. Eventually, that will turn into a piece of sculpture. The chicken will leave.
It looks pretty sculptural to me. Let me ask you a question here. How many workshops do you give?
I'm doing about 4 a year here, and they're like week long, and people come from all over. I've got people coming from Germany this year, which is totally cool.
So would this be how many years have you been doing that?
3 years. This was part of the package that we tried to create. What we do is when people come out here, on mornings we go out and walk the land to see different areas. And we have like local people make tamales, so it's and then they work in the studio really hard, and it's a really good workshop.
Oh, it just sounds wonderful. If you haven't guessed, this amazing environment where Debra Fritts really creates her work is in Abiquiu, New Mexico, and I'm in her studio, and she's just about ready to start to talk to me about a wonderful group and installation that she's preparing. So good morning, Debra. It's a pleasure to be here for sure.
Well, that's about time.
Yeah, we did. We worked hard
so
at getting
glad you're
together.
here. I'm glad you're here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Shall we start over here?
Yeah. So I guess this is these are pieces that I've been working on. I built these last week, and this is going to be part of an installation for a little show that Frank and I are going to do together in Abiquiu. And these to me are like the wishbone, which takes me back to my southern roots. Sunday dinners with my brothers, fried chicken, and we would fight over the wishbone or the pulley bone. And so I have met a man in Santa Fe that will, he loves to find these pieces of wood and he'll clean them. And I asked him, I said, well, can I take those and then put them into my art? And so I have like 4 pieces over here that I just bought from him. And those sticks will go in here, and then it's just a nice diversion for me to get away from the figure and just do the wrappings. And so this is going to create like a forest, I think, when I get through with this. I don't know yet.
I love it.
This is a piece in progress, and so I'm just going to show you what I'm working on right now. So you can see the clay is really, really wet, and I have to keep this wrapped up because we're in New Mexico and the air is so dry. But, and this is 2 sections. So right now I have a metal rod. This is like an armature support system while I'm working, and it comes apart right here.
Don't lift it. We can see.
No, I won't. So this is one that's, you know what? I'm not really sure what's happening yet. this started happening
see the rod in
yesterday.
here.
Yeah, there's the rod. And so I almost feel like there's, I love this, so I think this is going to come up here too and repeat. You know, sometimes you just work.
How exciting to see her in the middle of the creation. Well, you know, you can probably talk to us right now about the double features. One looks eyes up again, light, quiet, and the light. Similar, but brought together in one piece.
Right.
Am I on the right track?
You are on the right track, and so many times I don't really know why I'm doing what I'm doing, but then I figure it out as I'm working. So I feel like this is more of the meditative part of a person. This is more of who we really are.
In the core.
In the core. And then this is more being connected to the outside world. But then I feel like because this is looking up, the outside world, but the spiritual world. And I felt like it was important for me to bring the spirit animal into the work. And so I'm not exactly sure what this is going to turn into, but I feel like it will either represent the wild or the untamed, and where these are the teachers. The
guides.
animals are guides.
Animal guides.
Yes, there are teachers. And so that's kind of what's happening here.
So it would be this figure's core, the more outside appearance, and then the depth of that personal guide in an animal, and an animal guide possibly where you're going. Well, I hope this piece might find its way close to the coast.
Oh, I do too.
I'm going to be back here, but this time with my cargo trailer as we originally planned.
Yeah.
Because I prefer to move these myself than to have them moved.
Right.
Because by coming here in person, it's like being part of the family and not just seeing a baby on the street and saying, what a beautiful baby.
Yeah, good, good. So yeah, we'll see where this takes me. It's exciting.
Love it. Well, I have the luxury of actually being able to see work that is available for the collectors. So this is a piece, Debra will explain the stage, but will be available to one of her collectors or someone that I may be showing this to right now. So Debra's going to tell us about this piece.
This is in the drying process right now. So it has not been fired. And you can see, like, I work with the red clay, and, you know, a lot of times, I don't plan things out. I work very intuitively in the studio, and I knew that the body of work that I'm working on at this time is really the relationship, me, or the female, with the raven. And that's all I can say right now that's going on. There is...
Why don't we talk about the process from here?
Okay, all right.
Because she has some type of a wash on her right now.
So what I have on her right now, these are called engobes, which are slip colorants that I have put on the clay. And as soon as this is dry, this will go into the kiln and will be fired very slow. It'll stay in the kiln for a whole day. And when I'm able to work on it again, the first thing that I will do is put a stain on it, and the stain is usually a dark color. It's an oxide that will go down into the crevices, and then I start figuring out what's happening with color. So the painting, to me, when I do a piece of sculpture, there's like two major things that I have to get, and one is a good form, and I'm very happy with this form. And now I've got to get the color right to go with the form.
But there's always an element, like in birth, of surprise, correct?
Total surprise.
Every time you open the kiln.
Oh, yes, that is. But even building, you know, where this part came from, it's exciting. I had no idea that, I thought, oh, maybe I'll do this raven. And then before I knew it, is this hair? Is this part of her clothing? And so I like playing around with that where you really don't know. But you can kind of, know that this raven is connected.
So she'll have one major firing, and then from there you'll be doing some stains and dyes to create what you believe is the right place for the right outcome that you may get.
Right.
And then it'll be another major firing?
Yes, and I never get it in two. It will go again.
And so maybe 3 or 4.
3 or 4.
Okay.
I used to be a painter before I worked in clay, and so the surface building color on top of color is really important. I know that. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you very much. I hope that she'll be living in Southern California.
I do too. Move this over. Come out. Oh, I want to show you the kiln room before you leave, and it's a mess. It's a mess because I've been packing work up. But so
wow.
So this is my big front loader here.
Holy moly.
Yeah.
Oh boy, I know artists that would be very jealous of this workspace.
So I've got this one, and then this is my test kiln, and then I've got this kiln. And I've got another one that I've got to go pick up that's in between these two sizes. So chemicals and stuff and my boxes and ship. It's never enough space.
Hi, Leslie. Okay.
So,
so cool. And your racks. And Debra. Oh, that's so neat.
And this is a series that I'm not quite finished with. These are called Pilgrims, and they're really to pick up on, I guess, the gesture of a person in their search, in their personal search. And the children are all going to have hoods over their head because they're protected, where the other ones have big hoods on their back. I'm trying to keep these as natural as possible without a lot of
And in a group, of course. It's an installation work. Let's talk about these pieces that could be available from your studio.
Well, most of these are really the relationship between, I think, me and the animal. This is like the connection with the coyote. My whole, I love listening to them at night, and they're all in our back field. And so all of these are like just explorations about things that I might be thinking about. I love working with different type of surfaces, and like this would be the moon. So this is kind of like a self-portrait at night. Once again, trying to understand the raven. This was really inspired by when I was teaching a workshop, a student of mine found a skull, and I got so excited about the skull, so I had to kind of combine what animal that skull could have been. And I like the idea of layers and masks because we had a lot of our personal stuff. And I feel like the animal is so raw and so intuitive and so natural.
And it is our guide.
And
when people find.
Yes, and they're our teachers. Yeah,
I love this.
Yeah.
Piece.
And so, yeah, she's kind of like, she was really the first pilgrim going on her own, you know, just kind of exploring. And then there's the coyote down there, too.
Beautiful.
Yeah, so this would be like an owl, the spirit, another spirit animal. And then this is after I was really with a shaman, and we were trying to figure out who my spirit animal was. And I kept wanting to think it was the raven. So I kept seeing the black. But the coyote came out. But so I had to put the wing on there because it's like, I really want it to be the raven.
Well, Debra, I am honored to have your work on the West Coast.
Oh.
I am so excited and so looking forward to sharing it, and looking forward to years and years of visits together in both of our environments, you and mine and yours, and sharing collectors as well, and having them enjoy both of our spaces. I just want to thank you for the time you've had with me this morning, and being so generous and allowing me to take images of your sacred space, because I consider it like church being here.
Thank you so much, and I'm looking forward to our time together too.
Deborah's. Hey Debra, it's so nice to be in Abiquiu with you in your own comfort zone, and you just started to talk to me about relocating, and we started to touch on your mother and your grandmother and how they still show themselves in your compositions. Can you tell me a little about that?
I think what's happening now, I want to back up. The bird has always been a spiritual item for me. Growing up as a child, my mother's parents passed when she was 2. The girls were all put in an orphanage. The oldest sister, Aunt Ruby, told all of the girls that if they saw the cardinal that was their parents, keep watching over them. So I grew up with rituals. My mother would tell me when we were outside, she'd say, "Oh, there's the red bird, that's my parents." And so I always thought of birds as spirits, and the color red has been very important in my work. When my brother died at age 33, I remember my mother, and I'll never forget this, because she loved to plant, and she loved her flowers, and she was outside digging, and I think it was therapy to deal with a loss. And she was out there just digging, and I was out there just kind of watching her, and she looked up at I looked up at her, and I said, "Mom," and she goes, "Oh, look at those birds. That's your brother." And I thought, wow. And so I think I've always, because of my mother, have been very connected with the bird. And I feel a real spiritual connection with that.
So they're in your compositions often?
They have to be. I think they have to be, because
they fly there.
They fly there, they're honest. For the longest time, the bird that I would use was the cardinal, because that's what I knew. That's what I grew up with. But as time went on, and since I've relocated, the raven, and the first time the raven spoke to Frank and I was when we were renting in Abiquiu at the lake, and this is before we knew we were going to move here. And Frank was on a walk, and Frank writes beautiful poetry. He doesn't give himself credit for it, but he was out in a very early morning, very cold morning.
Icy roads.
And I'm a southern girl. I was a wimp. But so he went out, and he came back, and he said, "Oh my gosh, heard the raven's wings. It's so quiet here. I could hear their wings. And so then he sat down. I don't know when
Well, there were 3 ravens flying in a distance, and then they kept getting closer and closer and closer. And then 2 stayed up high. 1 came about literally a little bit higher than the ceiling.
Oh my.
And I could see the yellow eyes and just circled me and watched me. And then once the raven felt like, they're very territorial, and once he figured out I was okay, then he flew off. And so that's one of the first poems I ever wrote. Was about,
beautiful.
about,
So your poetry
well,
really,
I don't know.
but it came to
know.
the surface, probably came to the surface.
Well, it was so visualized.
So you kind of, but as your territory changed a little bit, and your inspiration opened up to the real elements of here in Abiquiu in New Mexico, you found new venues of inspiration.
Absolutely, and like so now the raven.
You're welcome. I'll be right out with that hot tea.
Okay.
Let me just sit down these folks. I'll be right back.
Thank you. I think the raven.
Oh gosh.
The raven to me, because I'm new in the West, is kind of like the unknown.
Yeah.
But I trust it. I feel like, because I've done some reading about the raven, very powerful, very smart birds.
Extremely smart.
We have a ritual to feed. We feed the ravens in the mornings. We've got a stand that we feed them. I like the scale of the raven. You know, they're this big black bird. So, because I'm a Southern girl and I have guilt, I thought I started feeling that I was neglecting my mother, who's been my greatest influence in my whole life, because of how simple her life was. You know, she was in an orphanage from age 2 to 16, and so she lived in an institution, and her whole goal was just to love family. And I think it's the most beautiful thing in the world, because I was spoiled rotten and I had 2 brothers, and she did everything for us. So when I went to college, I didn't even know how to iron, because she just wanted to
She
nurture.
took care of.
Because she never had anybody to nurture her. So I couldn't help but bring mother into my work. But as, I think as an artist, it's easy to get caught up into a cliche or to something that's comfortable. And so for a while, my figures would have a cardinal tattooed on them, or that wear this cardinal hat, or that have cardinal shoes. And then I realized that I had to let that go, especially when I moved out west. So now the 3 red dots. And it's something that I have done, and I don't know when I started it, but it's kind of like, I'll say, thank you, Mom. So it's like, I'll in the wet clay, it's an impression, and it's like three dots, and I paint them red with glaze, and it's my way to bring the cardinal into the work, and it's also my way to say thank you, Mom. You know, you're here with me in the work.
And the third mark, the 3rd dot.
It's kind of like thank you, Mom.
Oh, thank you. Mom.
And so
Okay.
when I finish a piece, it can happen while it's.
So it's almost like the 3 words of thank you, Mom, that they symbolize. And so interesting to hear it in your own words.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for that.
Yeah.